This is Thorin versus Loco, and on this episode, we are going to discuss. The title is going to be who will be better by the end of the spring split. SK Telecom, currently first place in the league in LCK. KT Rolster, currently second place. Now, just to give people the basic background, SK Telecom, obviously, the core of the team are the reigning world champions, and then they changed out the jungler and top laner, and they brought in Huni, formerly of Immortals and Fnatic, and they brought in Peanut, formerly of Rocks Tigers. Meanwhile, KT essentially only kept their jungler score, and they've just brought in superstar names from China, from other teams, including Rocks Tigers. So let's just start here, Loco. What's the first reason you want to give? Because on this side of the debate, who are you going to take out of those two?
I mean, of course, going to take SKT. Like, just as a rule of thumb in League of Legends, you don't bet against SKT. They kept most of their core roster for, 2 to 3 years, Wolf,
Yep.
Bang, and Faker. And I think that's huge. Like, Wolf, Bang, and Faker, they won Worlds multiple times. They played together with each other for 3 to 2 years, developed so much synergy, and they just know how to win. Like, I think between Goma, Faker, Wolf, and Bang, they've been in shitty situations where they were doing really fucking bad in Spring. They've been in a situation where they've been on top of the world, and they just keep going and going and going. Their foundation is way too solid for, I feel like, KT to upset that. What's your point of view? I cannot imagine how you can see KT being better than SKT at the end of the split.
Okay, well, the simplest way to do this episode, is I'll pick a reason why I think KT will be better. We'll talk about that. And then you can pick a reason SKT, and we'll keep going until we got through the main points.
Okay.
So, first and foremost, I'll take a point in favor of KT Rolster, which is I actually think, player for player, they have a better roster of players.
I think that's ridiculous, but go ahead.
Okay, so we'll just go player by player. So they have Smeb. Smeb is actually a contender for the best top lane to ever play this game. I mean, for so long, he has been elite level. I think Huni has only shown us a little bit in LCK so far. We haven't even seen him play a playoff series. He's not a guy we've seen play many best of 5 series in his career. Smeb is absolutely one of the best top lanes. He's one of the only players, when I look at the Rocks Tigers, where I don't think you can put almost any of the blame for them not winning the past couple of Worlds on him. And in fact, even most of the times they didn't win LCK,
it's mostly
he was still
Pro.
fantastic. So I think Smeb, for me, that one's pretty clear. But we can go back and forth on that.
So Smeb's been under really good coaching staff for a while. He's been under Nofe, and then now he's under KT. I don't think KT has the best of the coaching staff, but he's been in the Korean scene playing against Koreans, playing with Korean staff, playing with Korean players. So he's had the best environment, and he's reached a very high. Huni, on the other hand, I think under Fnatic, he was under a great coaching staff with Daler, and the teammates around him were really good. But the environment, and also, I guess on Fnatic it was pretty decent. But last year on Immortals, the environment he was under and the players he had to play with and the coaching staff he was under were significantly behind what Smep had to work with. And then now Huni's working with the best coaching staff. He's getting better and better and working on his weaknesses. He's playing tanks. He's not as mistake prone as before. He's not as impatient as before. I see Huni being on an upswing, and I can't see Smep getting better than where he's at. And in current form, I still think Huni's a better player, and Huni's just going to get constantly better and better because he's under a newer environment, a better coaching staff, playing against better players. But I don't see any way Smeb can improve. It's not like he was in China or he was in NA or Europe.
Okay, but here's the thing. Smeb, at the moment, doesn't need to improve on his top form. His top form, I just said, is probably the best we've ever seen in the top lane. And he's in a brand new team right now. The difference is Huni came to an already pre-packaged team that's played with many different top laners, a lot of star top laners as well, and they just slotted him in the system. Smeb's coming to a team where he's playing with players he's never played with. And some of these guys, they were the star of their team. He comes from a team where he was the star. Depending on the meta, other people could be very good as well, but he was the number one star. He was the main carry of that team, and a lot of it was focused around him. He's also playing for the first time in his career with someone who's a really intelligent jungler. The other jungler, it's based around how the team wants to play. It's based on what is in them in the meta, you know. So these are all things that, in some senses, can be good for you. Yeah, better players, but it also that takes adaptation as well. So I think the idea that like Huni's better right now, I think that's very debatable. I think they're both in new teams, and at the moment, here the difference is SK Telecom's better right now. I mean, we can see that from the results. But the point is, we're talking about where they're going to be at the end of the split. So okay, the Smeb one, we'll say that's contentious. Okay, you're saying Huni's slightly better. Then we go to the jungle position. Now, what's funny is, people who don't watch a lot of LCK, I've noticed that Peanut, I actually think, gets overrated, which sounds weird because he's absolutely been one of the best junglers for like over a year now, and he even looked very promising when he first came in to Najin. But the problem with Peanut is, first of all, in the regular seasons, he has always been better than in the playoffs. And then secondly, he's someone where when he can play those really aggressive champions, yeah, he goes off. He's like a Rush, okay? If he pops off, he's going to look fucking amazing. The difference is, Score can play anything. And this guy is so intelligent that, like, you just it's like he doesn't even almost need mechanics. He obviously has enough to do what he wants to do, but you never look at Score and go, it was his mechanics that won the game. To me, in that sense, I actually see Score as like the modern day Dandy, you know? He's just doing everything flawlessly, but he's not the guy like a Kakao or something or doing some crazy outplay. It's just, he doesn't need to because he's in the right places, he's supporting his lanes. So I think actually, for me, the jungle position is one of the biggest mismatches in the two teams.
So purely versus like Score and Peanut, I do agree with you. Peanut can be one-dimensional. Peanut can be very on and off. Like on an on day, he's crazy good, and on an off day, he's pretty fucking useless. Yeah. And Score, like I agree with like all the points you made. Very intelligent jungle, plays since forever, always in the right place, always knows what to do. But it's called the Legend of the Bee in Korea. Like whenever SKT is in danger, the jungler whose name starts with B comes in and saves the day. It used to be Bengi, now it's Blank.
I don't know if you could say that about Blank though, because Blank was the one who needed the Legend of the Bee. He's the one who needed to have his ass saved.
Yeah, now, but he's taken that role over with Bengi leaving the team. So Blank, I feel like actually does really well versus top tier junglers this split. Where he's come in. He reads the jungle pathing really well, and he knows what he needs to change, and he knows what to expect, and he does the right gank, and then he does what's needed. I think overall, like even like looking at it, Blank and Peanut versus Score, like Score does have a lead, but when SKT is able to use them interchangeably, where they first use Peanut and then they switch in Blank after what they see goes wrong, or they tell Blank, yo, this is like what you need to do, this is what their jungler is doing, and this is like the kind of pathing you need to do, and this is like the kind of role you need to fill on the team, and this is how you need to shot call, and this is how you need to communicate to the others. And Blank's been continuously getting better and better. He's played under Bengi, he's worked with the SKT coaching staff, he's an incredibly young player, and also how he plays is really good. So I was very, very fortunate for last World Finals to be able to sit behind the SKT side. And I was like, I sat pretty far away, but close enough where I could see their computer screens. Blank plays extremely fast. He switches and moves his computer screen extremely fast. And I love junglers that do that. They take in information really fast. And I feel like he has the right basis and the right coaching staff and the right players around him to get continuously better. Key point of my argument throughout like player versus player, SKT has players that are just going to get better and better. And KT, while their teamwork and their shot calling and a lot of things will clean up, SKT's early game will not be like as shitty as it was right now.
Wait a minute.
Going into the future.
SKT has players who are going to get better. You just said 3 of the players have been in the team for like 3 years. They're not getting better.
Yeah, they're not getting better, but the ones we just talked about, Huni, Blank, and even Peanut, I definitely think will get better.
Okay, here's the problem with that logic, though, is that by using the same logic, I can say that 4 out of the 5 KT players can get better. Because, okay, Score actually hasn't really had a dip in form. He's still just looked really good anyway. But the difference is the others have, in theory, all come to a brand new team. So, like, none of them have looked really bad, but they've all had moments where, you know, they're still figuring out the system and how we're going to play. So they can get better in as much as their current form. No, if they get to where they have been in the past, and we're not talking about 3 years ago, we're talking about even a year ago, the overall level, man for man, better than SK Telecom's. We haven't seen from Huni this level that you're talking about yet. It's started to kind of tease, you know.
I think their teamwork can get better, and they can go back to their heights again. But, like, honestly, like, what we're seeing individually from KT we might see a little bit better, but we're not going to see much better. It's not like Smeb is in garbage form. It's not like Deft is in garbage form. It's not like, actually, Pawn is in garbage form time to time. But like as they get inch closer and closer to their heights, like we already know what their heights are, and we've already seen it. And while it is really good, I feel like SKT can have higher ceiling with their players. Like, do you honestly see Smeb or like Pawn or Deft like getting much better than where they are at now? I can honestly and genuinely say that for Blank, Peanut, and Hooney, but I don't think you could say the same for the KT players I just mentioned.
No, but I mean the point I'm making is that they don't have to get a lot better. They only have to get to anywhere close to their good form.
Um,
Whereas the players like Peanut and Hooney, they're still question marks. Like no one knows it. Like for all we know, what they've developed to now, that might be the development. You know, you can't know that they're going to go further than that. And in terms of saying that they won't get better, like here's the thing: everyone who's on KT is a legend already to some degree. I mean, maybe you could argue Paul isn't as much as he was like the star player or whatever, but in general, they're all like Hall of Fame type players.
yeah.
So it's not like they're going to improve overall level individually, but they will look better individually as the team gets better and they get their identity becomes coherent. To me, the big problem with this season, this is why actually I was confident to say that I do think KT will overcome SKT, who are the better team now, is because actually, I mean, I guess this kind of leads into another point, but we can do this now. I actually think that the key thing about KT is that they still haven't entirely figured out what is the identity of this team. Like, we have so many good players. Who is the focus around? How do we play this current macro style, etc.? Like these are some of the questions they haven't quite figured out. And some of the players, as I said, it'll sound weird because it's a positive to get better teammates. But actually, if you spent your whole career in your SMEB, you're not really used to having a jungler like Score. You're not really used to having a bot lane that's like, well, I mean, I guess the bot lane was pretty good in that team. You're not used to having a mid laner that actually could kill people. And meanwhile, go over to Score. He's very rarely ever had all his lanes could win. So, I mean, if you look at the whole team, it's like they almost have to figure out how to use the luxuries they have now that they never had in their past teams. So, okay, if we just keep going player by player so we can get the players done, I will say the one position that I absolutely will concede is obviously to SK Telecom's side is the mid lane. Because, I mean, even if Faker wasn't in his prime form, and he pretty much always is, it doesn't matter because historically he can have a dip in the season game to game and he always gets back in the playoffs. So but here's the key point I want to make is that even though I think Pawn is clearly a weaker player than Faker, I don't think it actually matters that much because first of all, like mid lane, you were never going to win against SK Telecom anyway. And secondly, luckily, Pawn is actually a very self-sufficient style of player. Like it's not like he needs the jungler. It's not like Kuro where the jungler has to come and help him all the time or he's just going to lose lane. Like, Pawn actually kind of lives in a world where he does his own thing. So actually, I think as long as you just don't get wrecked by Faker, it doesn't almost matter. Like, yeah, later in the game, Faker will have his impact, but you were never going to shut him down anyway.
Mid getting crushed is a huge problem, and like pretty much like other than like one meta where mid was just like clear, like where it was like Zig versus Jace and Anivia Lux, like that retardedly dumb just wave clear stuff. Mid losing is a huge deal. If you
Wait a
ever
minute,
lose,
I never said that Pawn is going to lose mid.
then what? You don't think Pawn is going to lose mid to Faker? Then okay, I want to hear your point of view. What do you
Okay.
think is going to happen?
I actually think if you look at the career of Pawn, he is one of the ideal players to put against Faker. Not because of that old fucking shit narrative from 2014 where people thought he was like Faker's kryptonite. No, what happened was Samsung White was Faker's kryptonite and they were pretty much everyone's kryptonite if they played well. No, the key thing is though, Pawn has played basically his whole career in Korea actually not as a primary focus. In fact, he played where his jungler went to the other lanes. In fact, even when he was in China in EDG, the jungler usually went to the other lanes, usually helped Deft initially early in the laning phase, etc. So it's not that I think that... Look, my point is, Pawn doesn't have to win against Faker. He can essentially play against Faker. And one of the things about mid that is really underrated, this is actually how Kuro was deceptively good last year in Rock's Tigers, is that Kuro wasn't a good mid laner. So all he did, if he could, is get his comfort champions and just sort of play like, well, I'm not going to win against these monster mid laners. I'll just not die. And that was his whole plan. Now, Pawn doesn't have to go that extreme. He's not that bad a player. Although Kuro did improve a bit last year, like I said. But the difference is, Pawn can have some games where he has impact. Maybe he gets like a good mismatch in the mid lane like he always used to do with the counter pick. Then he can do something, he can get kills, he can do well. Otherwise, he just has to be decent enough against Faker that it isn't enough of a gap in terms of players that Faker comes into the team fights fed, essentially.
So why the pawn style worked on Samsung White and why it works on EDG is if one of your lane wins, then it can be okay. But if you ever have one lane losing like that, and you're getting pushed in mid, and the other team knows what to do, and SKT definitely knows what to do, you're gonna be in big, big trouble. I think that style for KT is only gonna work if the other two side lanes are consistently winning. If they ever have bot consistently losing or top consistently losing, and Pawn's just holding Faker or Pawn's getting slightly pushed in, and SKT is able to rotate onto these side lanes, then I don't think it's gonna work. So for KT, for it to be okay for Pawn to lose to Faker or get pushed in by Faker will only work if their bot and top lane are doing extremely consistently well versus their counterparts. So yeah, Pawn could hold, but it's heavily, heavily dependent on his side lanes and jungle.
Okay, so now we'll come to the last lane that we haven't mentioned, which is obviously the bot lane.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I actually think, get ready to go mental, Loco, because I've noticed there's a trend. Here's the thing, from being an interviewer, I have a really good sense of how people think and therefore what they might think next.
Mm-hmm.
So every time a team is an LCK champion and is a world champion, Loco starts loving every player on their team, and suddenly
You're
every
gonna tell me
player on
Wolf
their
is
team.
shit. No, I already know.
Oh no!
What is it?
Don't worry, mate. I think Wolf is fucking boosted.
Okay.
Like I think he's someone where I've never even thought he was like a top 3 Korean support, in any time. The key thing is, first of all, I actually think Bang is overrated as well, mate. But here's the way I think Bang's overrated. I think Bang is overrated in as much as in most of his teams, he's played with like star carry level solo laners. Like players where he didn't have to carry. Therefore, if he just played well and then had games like on his specific champions where he could go off or team fight well, then he did look amazing. It's like all of his potential weaknesses elsewhere were shored up. Now, one of the good things about Bang is he's very, very consistent. That's also why I think he's overrated, because if he was consistent and he was as godlike as people make out, we wouldn't even need to have this debate. He would just be the best AD character to ever play the game. So I think he's
one
pretty
of the best,
good.
and I can
He's
say
one
he's
of them.
arguably the best.
Well, you absolutely can. So go ahead and explain why.
Okay, so I don't get this whole like thing on Bang is consistent, but Bang can't carry. Bang is a
Didn't
player,
say that.
like,
Never said that. I just said he doesn't in general.
Bang is such a complete player. He knows how to play when he doesn't have resources. He knows how to play when he does have resources. When Def doesn't get resources, when Def is in pressure situation, he gets fucking demolished. He breaks down. He's mentally weak in a lot of ways, and his playstyle is nowhere near as flexible. Like,
Like what type of pressure situations are we talking about?
Deft has a game where he went like 110 on Ashe in one of the most important matchups, like KT versus SKT. Bang would never, ever, ever let that happen to himself. He knows when to play back. He knows when to give up CS. He knows when to give up pressure. Like, Deft can't handle not being the focus, and Deft can't handle like giving a lot of stuff up. And a lot of teams that Deft plays on is forced to play around Deft, and that's one of like the core problems with KT. Smeb and Deft, they're not good when they have to take a step back, while Bang and Huni can both accomplish that. Like, they're both fine playing a little bit safer. They're both fine giving up resources. They're both fine making sacrifices. They know they can win as a team. But for Smeb and Def, I don't think they have that part of their gameplay developed, and that's a really, really hard part of your gameplay to develop if you've been a star your entire life. Like, it's so fucking hard as like a star player to pass the ball at the last second to someone who has a better angle for their shot.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Smeb and Deft, they're not able to do that. And Bang is so flexible. Huni's being more and more flexible. Like, that was the biggest question mark that SKT had. Can Huni be this flexible tank player? Can Huni play back? Can Huni give up resources when he needs to? And the answer has been resoundingly yes. And for KT, that's not true at all. That's why I think SKT bottom is so much. I can't say SKT bottom is so much better, but for AD, I would definitely rate Bang above Deft. There are things Deft does better. I think in like minuscule skirmishes and like just inching out damage, Deft is better, and Deft can be more explosive, and Deft is a better player to put all your eggs into it. But all around, like, Bang is just a way better player than. Way better would be over exaggeration, but all around complete package, Bang is a better player. And this like downgraded view on Wolf is like, it's freaking crazy. It's like,
for what reasons,
the hell?
Though?
Okay, so
actually, wait a second. Let's do the Bang one first, because otherwise we're gonna forget that part. Okay, so here's my counter to what you just said there. First of all, it doesn't matter if Smeb and Deft both need to have their game played around them, because the game's not going to be played around pawn. So one of them is going to have the game played around them. That's just what KT hasn't figured out yet. Like at the moment, this is the okay. Here's my armchair analysis of
Okay.
KT Rolster. The big problem they have is the problem every super team has, which is when you make a super team, as in a real one, where like, all the players were stars of their past team. The big problem is like what you're saying. People come in, and the reason why they think, well, it's going to be even better is because they're sort of being deluded and thinking, well, it's the team's going to play a bit like my old team, but just with better teammates. It's like, well, they're not, are they? Because the whole point is, in your old team, no one ever really sat down and said, right, my name's Kuro, and obviously, like, I can never win mid, so don't worry about that. Like, let's all play around Smep. It's like you played, and then you realized who was good, who wasn't, who was strong, who wasn't, and it naturally suggested how you should play the game. Actually, having weaker players in a weird way tells you where to kind of to use your terminology, where to put all your eggs.
Yeah,
You know-
it makes a very defined play style.
yeah, exactly. That's a good thing. So the problem is, I don't deny it's tough to figure out when you've got the superstar players. Like, first of all, which superstar, as you're kind of saying, even can play a supportive style? There are definitely ones who can, and they adapt to do so. I certainly agree not all of them can. So for me, the identity issue comes down to this as well, which is when push comes to shove, what is our identity? Like, because at the moment, the problem I see with them as an all-star team is they're thinking, oh, but because we've got all-stars, we don't have to pick. Like, we can just
In
be
their
the ultimate
interviews,
team.
also, they feel like they can do everything. They feel
Yeah,
like,
this is my
we
point.
can just do everything. That's not
This
true
is my
at
whole
all.
point. No, but this is my point, Loco. At the moment, that's what they're thinking. They're thinking, no, it's the opposite. We have all, we can do anything. Like, we can play around bot when it matters. We can play around top if we have a good mismatch there. We can, and the problem they've got is that really no team can do that. Like, it's nice if every now and then you could, as a one-off do that. But everyone has to kind of have a plan A that is amazing, and everyone knows what it is, and that's really what you're practicing for. You can't just say, well, we'll just change everything up. So at the moment, I actually think that's part of why they've had these problems, is that they're still figuring that out. But this is what I think they will actually improve by the time they get to playoffs, by the time they play those first games, by the time they potentially face SK Telecom in the final. Because remember, that's the key thing. They will only play SKT in the final, most likely. So they don't have to be good by the semi. They just wait until the finals. So in terms of, I'll tie this back into the depth issue. I would agree right now, if I had to pick between the two, actually, I think this is probably one of the closest positions. This is one of the ones where I think that I actually might give a slight edge to Bang. Like, I think because he's been in that system for so long, he's played with Wolf his whole career.
People get blinded by like someone being extremely good at something, and they don't view the weakness like as a glaring weakness. Deft is extremely good at what he does. Like, if you measure like skill shot dodging, inching out damage in team fights, he's probably the best. But his weaknesses are very clearly defined too. And the last point I want to make on the superstar thing, I think KT can exist as a bottom focused team. And also one thing I want to say is you can have a mid that's resource less and that's supportive, but it's very hard to play to both sides of the map because top and bottom are so far apart. It's extremely hard for jungle to support both lanes. They can support mid and bottom or mid and top, but supporting top and bottom is almost impossible. So they either have to choose between being a bot focused team or a top focused team. I think Smep could handle it. Like, I see him struggle with it, but he did have a superstar bot lane to play with, Gorilla and Prey. But they gave the ball back to Smep a lot of the times. But I don't think Def can handle being a supportive AD and playing towards top side, and that being their game plan. I just don't think he has the mentality and expectations. And I don't think is able to play that way. And he will fundamentally have to change as a player and fundamentally change his mindset. And then we're not looking at Deft for what he is, and then Deft isn't really Deft. Like, look at all the top laners he has to play with. So from the start, Heart. Okay, Heart is pretty resource free. Like, just
Oh, you mean Acorn?
Or Acorn? Yeah, Acorn. My bad. Yeah. Acorn. Just take all the resources. Dot A and Deft, and then after that, he went to EDG and he played with a lot of Chinese top laners that were like, okay, we have superstar
same
Deft.
thing.
So here's all the resources. Take all the resources. Do whatever you need to do.
Yep.
Hey, clearly, just camp bottom and play around Deft. And then now he's in a position where he has to be like, okay, I want the resources. Like, hey, my name is Deft. I play really well when I get the resources. Play around me. But sometimes, and in Korea, that's actually not been the case. In Korea, traditionally, Korean ADs have been more utility focused and less resource free. Korea has had the best top laners out of any other regions. Korea has had the best carries, like Flame, Maknoon, there's just a bunch, Smep, Huni, like whatever, name them. the best Korean ADs have actually been supportive and utility based due to them having extremely great top laners, Marin. So knowing how to play that style and knowing to play with that style is so important, and Deft lacks that, and it makes him a flawed player in a way. And that's like Bang is just so much better because he's complete, he's well-rounded, he's played with Marin, now he's playing with Huni. Like, he knows how to take a step back, he knows how to
Okay.
pass the ball at the right time.
Okay, but here's the problem: is that it's Bang is just going to stay where Bang is and where Bang has been for the last 3 years.
Yeah, the
And
best
part of that is because he plays with Faker, mate. So I mean, a bit different from a lot of the other ADCs out there. They're not really playing with Faker in the mid lane all day long. But okay, let's just forget that, shall we? So problem Bang has is he can't improve because he plays with Wolf, and Wolf is Wolf. Okay, Wolf is the same at all times. If he gets the right meta, he occasionally looks good on a pick, but he is not. Put it this way: if we want to talk about mismatches, I'll take Mata over Wolf, I think.
Okay.
Loco. I'll
I
also
can give
take
you that.
Mata over Wolf in terms of Mata is probably the best shot caller in the world.
Okay, so here's my point of view on that. So, um, like when football fans are like, "Oh my God, who's that guy that does what is it, like the kneeling thing?"
Oh, yeah, you mean Tim Tebow?
Team Tebow, who's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, why don't they
yeah.
let Team Tebow play quarterback? Why don't they let Tony Romo start over Dak Prescott?" You know why? Because the head coaches in those organizations, like those football organizations, they've been there since forever. They watch
Okay.
these guys play in practice. They watch these guys like day to day. They basically live with these guys, and they know them way better fucking than any other like fan ever will. So their decisions are way smarter, way more informed, and just better. Like, as fans, you won't be able to make the right call over that head coach. And esports, a lot of head coaches are young. One of them, and yeah, like sometimes we make the wrong decisions. But I'll say this: Goma has been one of the best coaches. Goma has been one of the best at evaluating talent. Goma has been the best at winning. He's just been the winner. He's just been
Also had
Bill
Faker,
Belichick.
but okay, yeah, I agree.
So he's watched Wolf play for years and years and years. He's watched Mata play for years and years and years. And I think it was pretty obvious. If SKT wanted, they could have picked up Mata. If SKT wanted, they could have picked up any of the players that were going to KT, except for maybe Score, because Score was already on KT and he has loyalty to them. Goma has a better outlook on this. Goma has a more, like, a better and a more accurate and more eagle-eyed viewpoint on this. So, like, I'm not saying like you're stupid, but you don't have as much knowledge. You don't have as much game knowledge. You don't know much about Wolf's personality. You don't know what SKT needs to succeed as a team. You don't know, I'm not saying SKT and Goma is mistake proof, but if they stayed
I
with
mean,
Wolf
by your
for all,
logic, if I just go and find anything that Coma says that doesn't agree with what you say, you have to yield instantly,
no,
right?
I'm not saying what is it. He's like God and he's always right. But if he stayed with that same choice for 3 years and he continuously lives with Wolf, he watches Wolf play, he's seen Wolf at his highest point, he's seen Wolf at his lowest point, and he's constantly had chances to pick up when Rock's Tiger blew up, pick up Mata when he declared he wanted to come back to Korea, or like any other top tier support. Goma could have at any point picked out any support and placed him on his team.
Okay, here's the question then. So
Mhm.
you are literally, like, by the way, you've danced around it about 5 times now, but you are implying Coma thinks Wolf is a better support player than than Mata, yes?
Goma thinks the risk of picking up a new player that might not fit into the
Yes,
system.
exactly. That's the point. What's
Mhm.
great is you've just kind of made the point I would have made here, which is
Uh-huh.
it's not about whether Mata is better in SK Telecom. He's not in SK Telecom. By the way, I would actually do what Coma did there if that was a real choice he had. I wouldn't risk breaking up a bot lane that's played together 3 years. And remember, bot lanes are some of the most
If it was
risky
so
lanes.
bad, if it was so bad, if he's not even a top
Like,
three support, as you've said,
This is
then
called
he would
making a
drop in.
straw man, Loco. Like, at no point in time have I ever said Wolf is so bad he can't play in SK
You said
Telecom.
he wasn't a top three player, no? Top three
Right?
support?
So you have to have every player at every position be top 4 for your team to be the best.
I think he's at least top three. Like, Wolf has been mechanically so good a lot of times, and in the off the record or mic check or whatever they call it in Korea, whenever he's like shown shot calling, like the
Okay.
shot calling he does, like we only see bursts of it, like we never see a full game, but the shot calling he does is extremely essential to a team. Support backs and he
Are we
like
even going to talk about? Wait a second. Like, listen, I get
yeah.
the point you're making there, but your point is almost like, it's underrated. People don't know that Wolf can shot call, mate. It doesn't matter. Can shot call some fucking Chinese players around the map. He is Korean. He doesn't. He barely speaks English, mate. So
I'm
if
saying
he
the
can
gap
do
isn't
that,
as huge as you make it out to be. Of course, Mata's better. I'm not gonna sit
dude,
here
if
and
he
argue
can do
with you
that,
until
that's pretty insane, right?
I'm
Shot
not
call
gonna
a bunch
sit
of
here.
Chinese people.
Okay, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you Wolf is a better player than Mata, but I'm gonna sit here
You've
and
been
tell
doing your
you
best.
Wolf is at least top three. Wolf,
Okay.
it's not like Mata is God and Wolf is like
No.
fucking garbage.
Well, I don't know. Listen, individually, maybe. The difference is it's not about that, Loco. It's about how they play for their teams. And this is an area where actually I also think KT can improve, which is as Mata gets to know these players more, I think actually his shot calling will kind of tune up a bit. Like he'll figure out how to use people. And this is also something I think plays back into what you said about Deft. Actually, I'll tell you some inside info I have from the Chinese scene, okay? I've heard from a number of people from within the Chinese scene that one of the problems they had was actually that if you were a Chinese player, a Chinese team that got one of the superstar Koreans, so not like, getting like Zero or someone who kind of like thrown away and they have to do what you say. If you got like a world champion type guy, it's not that the coach would tell you like, oh, this guy is the fucking star and you must do everything he says. But because they'd paid so much for you, there was kind of like an atmosphere in the teams from the owners of like, don't go too hard on the Korean guy. Like, kind of like the Koreans kind of get like prominence, like this is our superstar player. We want to keep him happy, we want to keep him in our team. And so I would agree that's, if anything, probably blown up Deft more so. Like, at least when he was in the Korean team before, he was probably a little bit more humble. But if he's in China, I would agree. Someone like Mako, especially, by the way, Mako was like a rookie when he first came to Deft 2 years ago. He can't say shit to Deft. Deft's the fucking star player and probably the highest paid, The difference is Mata absolutely can tell Deft to just shut the fuck up if he wants. Like, he has that authority level.
So he can tell Def to shut the fuck up or Def not to do something, but Def is gonna shrink and he's not gonna like Def is not gonna be able to play that role. So in the shout calling stuff, Def is almost silent. Like we only see bursts of it in their mic check or off the record. But Modest making calls like, okay, we're gonna play around Palm. Def is really weak. We can let Def die in team fight. And when Def hears that, I don't think he's able to be like, damn, like, okay, let's play to win. Like, he's so young, and for such a long time, like, he's had people play around him. To change that viewpoint it's not gonna happen this split. It's not gonna happen within a split. Just no way.
We can certainly think that. Okay, so now we've done all the players.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this is going to shock you, but I don't want to. I don't want to immediately go into the other points. I want to say now, let's contrast the coaching stuff because are you ready, Loco? I'm going to trigger you again, mate. So I know to you, Koma, or Goma as you call him, Koma has won. I realize, by the way, that is actually how Koreans say that. So I'm only fucking with you on that. Mm-hmm. So Koma he's won 3 worlds. He's won all those LCK titles. He did also have not just the best player, by far the best player to ever play League of Legends, probably the only player in the history of League of Legends who was like at worst top 5 in the world, for like 4 years straight or something utterly insane, So
You're
like that is
Wolf,
essentially,
right?
of course, yeah. So obviously if you have that, you have a huge advantage over other coaches. So the point I want to make is not that I think Koma is the worst of the coaches. If I had to guess, he probably is better. Like, it's not enough just to have Faker. I'm sure some people could have Faker and lose. Like, some people could have Faker and come third or something, The difference is, I actually think that the KT stuff, you kind of alluded to this, I think they're underrated. Like, if you look at all the different teams they've had over the years, they've had some teams. Like, I thought the team they had last year that made it to the finals, that was a pretty weak team, I thought. Like, they played well because they played around Score's strengths. But actually, player for player, there's a reason why those players didn't go and join superstar teams and become the best. That was a team where it was like more than the sum of their parts. And I can describe most KT teams like that, except for maybe the team when they briefly had Peekaboo. I thought he was very good as well. In general, they've had a bunch of players who should have been mid-tier LCK players, but they got the most out of them. They made them actually fit a style. Now, they couldn't win LCK. Admittedly, they were playing against Rox Tigers and fucking SK Telecom, really, really good teams. But I thought the KT teams have pretty much always been well coached, and I've never really seen a time where they had a group of players and they didn't get the most out of them.
Here, so I'll name you some of the players on KT.
Come on.
Hachani. Who else? Zero.
Absolute fucking dumpster, yeah.
Yeah, like, so KT, with some of their players, like, and some like how they've done their roster and like overall from the course of the organization, I think have been pretty average at picking up
Okay,
players
by the way,
and developing players.
here's one point I'll make, Loco, because this actually ties into what I'm saying, though, is I would agree at picking up players, they've done a bad job. That's how they end up with mid-tier players. I'd agree on that sense. But my point is how they coach those players
They
I've actually
can't
been impressed
develop.
with.
They've never developed these players like to god tier players, and whenever they leave KT, they're like highly sought after. Dude, if you ever have SKT front of your name and then you leave, any org in the world other than like maybe the top tier org would love to have you. Like, what has like Scout accomplished other than being like Faker's like ball boy for like a few years, and then he goes to China, like he's highly sought after. Like, just having that SKT name and being under that coaching staff, like you get developed so much and you get held in high prestige. Like, if KT was actually that good, like they would be able to develop these players to be like extremely good. But I feel like players on SKT, when they leave, they never achieve anything higher than they ever have on SKT, or they don't get better as a player.
Well, I mean, that's pretty obvious since they left the best team of all time. So, I mean, it's kind of a
Well,
redundant
no, they
point.
don't get better though. Like they don't
Okay.
get better individually as
Well,
players.
wait a second. Even though I acknowledge that, I just want to say one thing, Loco. I think that's actually one of the most unfair things about how people judge League of Legends players. League of Legends is one of the most ridiculous esports games I've ever seen. For it's almost impossible to look better in a worse team than you look when you're in a really good team.
Mm,
I'll give you an
All right.
example, okay?
Okay.
So I'll tell you a player who left KT and looked worse. Someday. Now, when Someday first came to KT, he was okay. There's a good reason why they replaced him with Insect, though. He was just okay. And he played a couple of champions. And
never
even when they
improved.
were,
Like KT
come
could
on,
never
man.
improve him.
In season 5, he became amazing. They played the whole game round. He could even be the carry on a fucking tank and carry the whole game.
He played Echo and he cleared waves and he lost.
That's not, mate. We're on about season 5 here. That's not all he did. That's not all he did.
So you think someday where he started out on KT was like on an upward slope?
How do you
throughout
think
his whole
KT
career?
got to the final of the summer season in season 5?
The other
'Cause
teams
they
were
had-
pretty weak, and
Someday
Rocket
was a
League slipped.
monster. Someday was a monster.
So like on KT, like okay, I'll say this. In some ways, Arrow looks better on P1 than he did on KT.
It's almost like he's playing versus complete shitters in fucking NA that has no bot lanes. It's weird that, isn't it?
Actually,
It's weird
I'll
that.
give you that.
Okay, yeah, okay. Right, come on.
Players can leave KT
I agree,
and look
yeah,
good
okay.
and develop, but
Okay.
they can't do that outside of SKT because you're under the best coaching staff. Like that's as good as you're gonna get.
Okay,
your
but-
height as a player, as a SKT player, will
Okay.
always be on SKT, but your height as a player on KT will never like you can reach a higher high than you have on KT. But you
Listen,
cannot do that
point,
as a SKT
that
player.
point could be absolutely correct, Loco. But to make it relevant to the discussion again, it's not about how you're going to play after SKT. It's not about how much you've been developed. Because remember, for you, they're
That's
going to
what
be the
I'm
best
telling you.
team
Like,
within a
SKT
split.
has the best coaching staff.
So here's
That's
the
what
point
I'm
I'm
arguing.
making. We're not talking about developing players. You don't have to develop a single player on KT. I've got all my players fully done. Ding, oven's done. Oh, fresh cookies, delicious. You don't have to cook them anymore, Loco. Yours
you
are
don't
still
have to-
cooking. You know, Hooney's still in there. He's on
Yeah,
like
you might, like,
eating.
but you have to arrange them.
He's
in a
on
way to where
400
you
degrees. You don't want to burn him too much. You know, you don't want to take him out too early. Difference is, ding, all the KT players are done. So all I'm saying is the coaching relative to the players they have now. That's something I actually have. I won't say faith because I hate that term, but I actually trust the process that in 2 or 3 weeks, KT will figure out part of this identity issue. They'll figure out how to discipline the players so that they play the right style. They'll get Matter on the same page as everyone else. And by the playoffs come,
I'll
listen,
say okay.
when the
yeah,
playoffs come, you can tell me all this stuff like, oh yeah, but Thorin, look at all those regular season series they won, and look, SK Telecom barely ever lost. And do you remember when MVP beat KT? And I'll say, you know what, Loco, see this best of 5 here, mate. Doesn't matter. That's the only one that matters. That's
Oh
the only
my.
one. Come
Okay,
on.
So if KT gets their shit together and they formate in a team, there's only one way it's gonna happen. Mod is telling Smep, dude, we're gonna play around depth and you're gonna play tanks and you're not gonna get
Okay.
that much resources.
could
Sometimes we'll
work.
give you counter picks and we'll play around you. But yeah, we're gonna play around depth. And they will be one dimensional. Smep in some ways will be disgruntled. Like Smep left to win worlds and be a superstar. Like it's when your head gets that big, it's not like a bad thing. He's super fucking good. So his head, the size of his head is
It's
proportionate to
appropriate.
his skill
Yeah.
level. But when your head is that big, it's really hard to play a supportive style, and I don't think he can manage. Like you were rated the #1 player going into Worlds, like being told, dude, you're gonna play Maokai, you're gonna play Nautilus, like you're always gonna have a thought at the back of your head, like fuck, give me Rumble, give me Camille, give me like whatever carry champion, I'll fucking carry this shit. And SKT like drill that into their heads. If Huni can play tanks and he can look great playing tanks and not be impatient, like holy fucking shit, that's some great coaching. Holy fuck, you got someone who was playing top Lucian to play Maokai Nautilus and like not take unneeded risk and just play very accordingly. Like Jesus fucking Christ, like holy shit.
Okay.
That's like god tier level of coaching.
So when we talk about coaching, we talk about changing players and developing them. One thing we absolutely do not know yet about Huni and Peanut is how they will play in the playoffs. Peanut has played so few playoff series in his career, and Huni is a fucking tilt monkey. This guy he goes like that. No one's ever seen him play a playoff series.
He's a tilt monkey because he could rule over the coaching staff. If you can rule over the coaching staff and you can do whatever the fuck you wanted and it doesn't work, then you're going to tilt. But if you have someone you can rely on, you have Faker you can rely on, you have Bang you can rely on, you have Goma you can rely on, you have SKT organization you can rely on, you're not going to tilt. Like, how can you tilt in that environment? Like, you would have to go full monkey. Like, you just go full
I believe
eight.
This guy can do it. I trust his ability to tilt. He's going to show you tilt at a level you've never seen.
The organizations you were in, like, you underrate like how bad it was at certain points. He's playing fucking Lucian top. Like, their drafts were so one-dimensional.
Yeah, he thought that would work.
He had no faith in Turtle and Adrian, like from the way they were drafting and when they were picking. But now he can have complete full trust in Faker, Goma, and Bang. I would trust Goma and Bang and Faker. I would trust those three with my life. I'm sure, like, Huni can trust those guys. Like, they will show up in playoffs. Like, you don't have that pressure when you're playing as SKT. Like, look at the people around you. Okay, I have Faker to my right, I have Bang to my left. Oh, behind me it's Skoma. Oh, behind that we have like fucking like trophy cases full. Like, you can trust that org.
Okay. Do you have a key point you want to make? I'll give you a chance. Do you have one that you want to make now, and then we'll address that?
Okay, so the weaknesses that KT has are very, very hard to fix. Like the macro, the team play aspect that they have to develop, and the like people having to give stuff up. And then in playoffs, like coaching staff, like ruling over players. Like during playoffs, when things go wrong, players will speak up. I don't think we should do this. We should change up our plan. We should do completely different. I think Goma can tell Faker, no, we're going to do this and we're going to do things this way. And I think it should be like this. And the team will listen. I don't think KT coaches can do the same thing to Mata.
Okay, but that's...
Mata wants something, Mata will get something. Yep. And as a player, like a player-run team, I feel like will have its limits. Even with the best player to run the team, if I pick one player to make all my decisions, I would pick Mata. But I still think like that kind of like structure has its limitations, and it's going to show when SKT and KT have to play in playoff situations.
Okay, so you've actually kind of led into my point there, which is I agree. The key difference between how these two teams are going to play in terms of like as a unit, not just individually, is that SK Telecom is an organization coach-based team. He decides how they play. He crafts them. He tells people what to do, and then they play his style of League of Legends. That's why they can actually change players, and they look almost like the same team every year. The difference is KT Rolster is going to be a player-led team. You are right. It will be Mata's team, and let's just look at Mata's resume. So in 2014, he literally invented how League of Legends would be played for the next year and a half in terms of macro. He invented that. Like, he didn't have a coach tell him, Mata, maybe we could try this. He didn't have some other player like, oh, I've noticed this. He was like, hey, Dandy, let's put our heads together. Oh, we've just invented how to play League of Legends in the modern day.
Him and Dandy like revolutionized
and not only that
into objectives.
Exactly. And not only that, we've essentially literally between the two of us just killed the era of playing like win lane, win game. Like, that's over. We've won that. Like, now if people have amazing laners, we don't even let them get through the laning phase. We just end the laning phase and we're already fighting and we kill them in their jungle. Okay. So that in itself, great resume. But then it doesn't stop there. People forget this guy went to China. And then he took this team RNG. Right, RNG is still a good team in China now, by the way. Like, they didn't get as good players, but they're still a good team. The difference is when he had that team, as flawed as they were, half Chinese, half Korean, they would have moments that looked like they were a super coordinated unit. Like, they'd have games where they looked like they knew what they were doing. Like, they played like a Korean team every now and then. So I actually think this is a guy who's proven he can keep up with the meta. He can adapt. He can find a way to win within it. So give him all these tools. Yeah, I agree, Loco. 3 weeks, 4 weeks into the season, maybe he hasn't figured it out yet. But give him enough time. And this guy's like an anime character. He's the fucking genius main character. Doesn't matter what terrible situation you put him in. Like, he's going to get the checkmate.
Oh, Okay, so I mean, if you want to be the weeb and I want to be like the more sport person, I'll
Okay,
make
go
this
on.
analogy.
Go
Mata
on.
is Peyton Manning, and
Okay.
Faker is Tom Brady, and Goma is Bill Belichick. Like Mata might be individually smarter than Faker and be able to
Okay.
lead his team better, but Bill Belichick and Goma will just control the team like overall as a coaching staff in a way better way. So like yes, Peyton Manning and Mata is fucking good, and they can come up with their plans really quickly, and they're very smart, but they actually have to play the game and they're limited. And as just a cerebral being and being able to lead the team and have that authority and just get everyone under one roof, Goma and Bill Belichick just does it better. It's Tom Brady and Bill Belichick versus Peyton Manning.
I mean, here's the problem, right?
Case
In
closed.
general, I mean, not really. When people make analogies, okay, I actually
Mhm.
think you should take the analogy for what it refers to in the game, okay? So I could pick apart the football parts so that they don't make sense. Like, for example, there isn't like a defensive line, and it's not about like defense actually wins championships, which, Tom Brady doesn't play defense. So I could bring all that up. That's irrelevant to this discussion, though. What I will say is this. Is that actually one of the flaws, I think, of SK Telecom's system, and one of the reasons why I actually think having Faker, who almost never fails. Like, one of the key things about Faker is it's not even that he always has to be the best player in the world. It's just think about in all of the history that of seeing him play, you almost never see him actually properly tilt. Like, he always plays to a certain level, and you have to go above that level, or he's just going to win. Okay,
Mhm.
like he doesn't always have to play his 10 out of 10 level, but if it's a playoff series, he's going to play like 8 out of 10 at least. So
Mhm.
that's really really good if you're a coach because you can rely on literally one of the most influential positions in the game to always be good.
Mhm.
And a
He can do
key,
that. The thing is, you can do that with Bang also and Wolf,
sure,
but you can't do that with Deft or Smith
but
or
but
Pawn.
here is the difference. Okay, is I actually don't think that SK Telecom had the best macro every year that they won the World Championship. Like, I think in season 6, I think Rocks actually were better than them. I think in some weird ways, if Samsung could get to like 45 minutes, they had some of the best macro. There was people who in certain ways could be better. It's just that the general approach from SKT was always really solid. That's actually where I think if the KT players don't hold the team back, that actually Mata can be better, because the genius of having a really amazing in-game leader who can make decisions is he can make a decision on the fly, and he can do the one decision in the game and translate it to everyone that you can change something. Whereas the difference is, it's not like you can call a timeout. So to use your analogy, okay, it's not like we can just call a timeout and then say, oh, come on, what do we do now in this game? We can't. You have to just play. So if you don't remember in that moment, if you're Peanut, if you're Hooney, and it's a playoff seat, you can't just suddenly go, oh,
But
what was I supposed to do again?
Playbook in League of
Mata
Legends
tells
is
you what to
limited.
do.
Playbook in League of Legends is limited,
Yeah,
and
and the
it's a
game's
best of
all
five
about making
series.
reads
It's a
in the
best of
game
five
and
series.
then deciding what to do for an objective and
Okay,
how to respond to that. That's perfect to have a high or a Mata or a fucking whoever else you want to pick to that role.
so thing is, it's gonna be limited, and like you can get leads, and KT did get leads on SKT consistently. Their early game, how they roamed, and what Mata did was creative, and they did get consistent leads. But SKT had better mid game and better team fighting and better overall decision making later on. And even if they do
That's because
something cutesy,
Weldon actually secretly coached them, so he just told them like, "Don't worry about early." No, obviously I'm joking. Right? Keep going. Yeah, come on.
um, and they could be cutesy and like do those gimmicky things and pull off these cool plays and get a lead, but there's a limit to that. It can't work game after game after game after game, and it can give them a game or two in the series, but overall, like a course of a best of 5, SKT will adapt better.
So, do you remember the reason, Loco? There was actually one really big reason. If you had to pick last year in the summer split of LCK,
Mm-hmm.
when KT Rolster played against, for example, SK Telecom with their old lineup, one of the
Mm-hmm.
real reasons that you have to say that KT won was because Score was like one of the best players in the whole
Clutch. He was
server.
clutch as
He was
fuck.
amazing, right? So the difference is, in his career, Peanut has been amazing in regular splits. And once he finally got to play like an LCK final and it was against KT, who was a bit on demand, yeah, he did okay. But it's not like he even dominated there. Score still held his own with a much worse team. Now you give Score all these power players and put them in the playoffs. And think about how, by the way, here's a key detail people don't notice. Think about how fucking hungry Score must be. This guy's been in all these finals. He's been in teams that have been top 2, top 3. The guy's never fucking won. He's literally still to this day. He needs that championship. He's still going completely.
Yeah, he doesn't have.
So that's an area where when you get to the playoffs, I think it will be different than the regular season. I think actually that Score is going to be a big mismatch for Peanut. Peanut has to really kind of, unless depending on what the meta is, unless it's some ridiculous meta, I think that Peanut still has to prove to me that he's like a playoff player.
So As I mentioned, like Will of the Bee, like Blank, it's Blank and Peanut, and Blank has
Mate,
been in the organization.
make it a tag team match. Have them come in. It doesn't matter. Score will dust these fools off.
I think like if it was just simply Peanut versus Score, I would lean with Score much more heavily. Like
Okay.
Blank serves a very, very useful purpose for SKT, and they're the one team that really uses six man in the right way
Yeah.
and in a way that benefits them. It's not like they're splitting between two players. Like they use people like they're the team that's been doing six man for like 3 years. Like Easy Hoon, Tom, Bengi and Blank, now Peanut and Blank. Like they know what to do with these players. Like when SKT has an additional player, they definitely use them. Like it's not like these other orgs where they just have an additional player because like they're not letting them go, or like hey, it'll be cool like if you have two really good players and we make them compete against each other. SKT uses them fully, and yeah, I think it'll show in playoffs. Their six-man system really shines in playoffs. So I
Yeah, but
believe.
the difference is two of the players in their system have never played in the playoffs for SK Telecom. We've never seen Peanut play. We've only seen Hooney tilt in playoffs. So the big problem I
Who
have
do
with
you
this,
want? What
yeah,
do you mean only seen Hooney
ULCS,
tilt?
sick. Who was going to beat him in the ULCS,
Oh,
mate?
so you're saying you've seen him tilt in NA, but we've seen him win in EU. Like, how can you
I've seen him
discard
tilt in the
EU?
fucking World Championship.
Of, he had to play. He had to play versus Smeb, and
Yeah, and then he
his lane
chose
over.
to willingly pick Riven into the best player in the world. Well, the best top player.
Okay, I don't think if Goma will not allow
No,
Hooney
I
to pick.
agree with that. But my point is this, okay?
Mhm.
Actually, I think SK Telecom, as they stand right now, I told you, I already think at this second they're a better team than KT. The difference is, I don't think that they're going to get that much better. And I think actually, what it only takes one of them, Peanut or Hooney, could be a liability in the playoffs. Whereas actually, I think KT, they've actually already impressed me in as much as they brought these totally disparate elements that don't play together. Like Pawn and Matter did play together 2 years ago. Essentially, this is like a team of five totally separate parts. You bring it together, and normally there should be it should take time to learn how to play with this guy and learn. They're learning how to play all together, and they're still the second best team. They're still winning games of SKT. They're still
The
getting
thing
leads
is,
on SKT, and this is when they can improve.
you feel like they'll improve, but for them to improve, few players on their team have to fundamentally change who they are, and they might not be as strong if they fundamentally change their playstyle and their viewpoint on the game. And it's very hard to do that. Like it's very hard to fundamentally change who you are as a person and as a
Sure.
player. And I, I think it's much more likely that SKT fight improvements. Like for KT to beat SKT, a lot of things has to go their way. A lot of things, like so many things. Like Smep or Deft have to learn to pass the ball at the right second. Mata has to be god tier coach in and out of game and also play.
Yeah.
Their coaching staff has to draft and prep better than SKT. There's none of their players have played in playoffs like together, and they lost it. Like SKT can handle being 0-2 and they can come back. Like they've done it before and like they know how to do it. I don't think like KT players like when they're down and when things go wrong for them, I feel like they're gonna fall apart, not like get stronger and adapt and change in the right ways. And I have full faith, and SKT's shown that they can do that. Like just like SKT so well prepared. They have so much depth, so much experience, and yeah, their players are way more well rounded.
So
It's just
here's one of the
unfair.
problems that SKT doesn't have, which is something you've alluded to. So actually, in season 6, Bengi was pretty fucking bad overall. Like, there's a reason he wasn't the starting jungler, but what they basically used him for was like, if Blank is tilting or Blank looks like he's going to lose as the series, Bengi comes in, and aside from like the odd game at Worlds, Bengi's rough job in general was just sort of like, okay, it's the last game, we can't afford to fall apart, just come in and be clutch essentially, just be like a veteran, and then it's not like then Bengi's going to carry the whole game. No, then the other parts of the team that can carry the game anyway will. And so one of the key principles, this is actually something that comes from Counter-Strike, believe it or not, which is when I used to watch Counter-Strike, a long time ago, and so let's say like 10 years ago even, there used to be a lot of scenarios where in like a major final, you'd have like a 1v1, And sometimes the 1v1 would be what should be a mismatch. It might be like the best team in the best player in the world, or versus like essentially like a support player. Like a player whose job is just help other people. But the difference is, if that support player is really clutch, my old saying used to be that when it's the most pressure moment, like raw skill goes away, and it's more about like who holds their nerve.
Mentality.
Because you can be the best player, but if you kind of like nerves get to you, or you either overthink it, or you just like don't think and you just react, that's when you can just lose the whole game. Sometimes just being the cool head there can actually help you beat a better player. So in that particular sense, that's one of the things I did think was really cool about how they used Bengi last year. It's like, okay, we only use him when he has to do that. Like if we put him in for the whole series, he would probably get out jungled. He'd probably loses the fucking series. And if they got him on certain picks, he'd be a liability. The problem is they don't have Bengi anymore. Like Blank, I agree. A positive of Blank, okay, is as long as he doesn't have an identical champion pool to Peanut, it gives you extra options. Like if Peanut can't play this, we can put him Blank.
Dude, Blank seen Bengi do that, and Blank has like full faith in his team. Like he's like, oh my god, like Bengi's so good.
Blank's a bit of a shitter, mate. In his heart, he's a bit of a shitter. Skill-wise, he's good, but in his heart, there's a weakness. That, like he's weak, mate. I've seen him break. I've seen him break.
Blank personally, like him. Like holy
mate,
shit.
I've visited him in his. I've visited him in his dreams, and I took him off to the fucking to the like imaginary land, and we had adventures. And every time he needed me to save his bitch ass.
Okay.
Come on, mate. You can't say that Blank's as clutch as Bengi.
I think Blank learned a lot from Bengi in terms of like coming in and like being like, hey, this is the thing that went wrong. Like I know how to fix it. Coach told me this is what we should do, and let's just do this, guys. Like we're so much better than them. Like we're SKT. Like you're fucking faker, dude. Like let's kick butt. And that's all he has to do. Like all he has to do is like slightly untilt everyone, get them on the right page, do what Goma wants them to do. Like it's a very crucial role that makes. Like SKT can break momentum very easily, even when they're down series, and they can adapt. And so good, just it's unfairly good how stacked they are right now. Like Bang and Faker being on the same team is so fucking unfair.
So here's another factor. Okay, this is a point I want to make, which is that I actually think another reason why SK Telecom has been so dominant, it's kind of what you said there, which is everyone knows that SKT's been down 0-2. Everyone knows they've been to game 5 and they bring in the right player or they make the right call and they win the game. So when people get into those situations, no one in their conscious mind is thinking like, shit, I'm going to lose to SK Telecom. But there's like a feeling in your stomach like, oh, they always do it somehow. I mean, to use the analogy you gave before, the Tom Brady one, like no one now, if they're ever playing Tom Brady in the fourth quarter, can be like, oh, the game's won. Everyone knows, like, well, no, if there's anyone could come back, this team could do it, he could do it. The point is that in itself, this is another factor from esports that carries across every game and every sport I've seen. When you're not only the champion, but you're the champion who always wins when it's the clutch moment, it's not just that you're amazing, you are, but eventually there becomes another side to it, which is that people who play you like get intimidated by that. They start thinking, oh, I'm sure he's going to do something like, oh, what's going on here? Like, and it's almost like they're setting you up to then have the chance to beat them,
The new players on SKT can rely on that too. Like they can look like Huni and Blank and Peanut, or not Blank, Huni and Peanut, like they can rely on Wolf and like Faker and Bang. Like whenever shit gets hard, they can be like, yo, like what do we do here? Yo, Goma, like what do we do here? Like they can tell them, like we've been here before, like we're gonna win. Like I'm sure they know what to do. Like they won before over and over and over and over again. Like if Smep, if he's down series 0-2 to Huni and Faker, I think it'll be really hard for him to like mentally get it together. Like Mata, if he's down 0-2 or 1-2 to SKT, it'll be really hard because he knows like the entire team is like dependent on him. Like just there's so many factors that makes it more and more SKT favored in a best of 5, in a clutch moment, in a playoff situation, at World Finals, at World Semis, wherever they're gonna meet.
So here's what I'm leading into with this point though, is that if I had to pick one player in League of Legends history who doesn't even understand why teams feel that way, why is everyone intimidated by SK Telecom? I'd pick Mata. First of all, he used to literally have a little office that he used to rent in the back of Coma and Faker's brain, where anytime he wanted to, he could just pop in there and go, oh, hey, my player, oh, I've got space in here, right? I always beat you guys, right? When it comes down to it. Then, remember when he wasn't even in Korea? He's playing with Chinese players. That's like the most ridiculous. That's like playing with like a guy who's super fast on your team, but he has no brain and he can't talk. It's like, if you can win with that guy, listen, he's some advantages to it, but it's really hard. So I remember when RNG with Mata, they won games against SK Telecom at MSI, and that was when he didn't even have Uzi Eye. He had fucking Whoosh. And what a perfect name, Whoosh. Like, it went over your head. Who the fuck was that guy? He won games with Whoosh, right? He can win that. He won a game against them at Worlds, and they had a much better team than he did. And he had this super flawed team, and they'd fucking Xiaohu and all these guys that, like, you know, they're good at times. Other times you're like, is this team even that good? And he gets it together. So if there's one player who won't believe in that and who won't think, oh, we've lost before we have, or who will just give up the game, it's fucking Mata, mate. If there's anyone
sure
who
it's
can do
not
it, he can do it.
FieldG also won games versus SKT. They have faith.
Okay.
They beat him at MSI too. How about that?
It doesn't matter, mate. That was only in the group stage. It was only in the group stage.
I do think like Mata can have an edge, but when everyone on KT, like coaching staff and all 4 players, is going to be looking at Mata, like asking him, like, "Hey, what do we do now? Like, what do we do now?" Like, that pressure one day is going to be very, very heavy. That burden one day is going to be very, very heavy. They lost 2 series. They go into playoff. They're down 2 games. That burden, that pressure is going to be very, very heavy for a player to carry, for a player to shot call throughout the entire game, and for a player to like function.
Yeah,
the
but that's
amount of burden and amount of like eyes, amount of pressure that's going to be on Mata is like way too much. Like, I don't think like Mata's a bad player or anything. I think he's fucking great. He's probably 2nd or 3rd best player right now, but he's just in a situation that's much harder.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that I think is good about this, is that he's actually been through hardship in his career. He's
Not
had
this kind of
players.
pressure. Not like this kind of pressure. Not like this kind of hardship. What excuse does he have now?
He used to
What
play on
excuse
fucking
is he gonna
Vici
have?
Gaming. Like,
Yeah,
they were terrible.
If when Mata lost on Vici Gaming, like no one's like, oh my god, Mata. I mean, I guess there were some people that were like, Mata is washed
There
up.
were, yeah.
And then like, but if Mata can't win with this current KT lineup versus SKT, like it just makes SKT that much more godly. Like if they lose the playoff
sure.
versus them, like we're fucking done. Like holy shit, like SKT won Worlds. Like if in spring playoffs, like SKT beats KT, that's what KT's gonna think. That's what the entire world is gonna think.
No, because here's the thing. Here's why I don't think that. Is because this team is full of players who have actually strong mentalities. Like I said, it's not that Smeb broke down and that's why Rox Tigers didn't win in the past in LCK and Worlds. He was amazing. It's not like Score was like the guy, he was the guy who would like have the fucking MVP type performance in a loss. This guy just kept going to the end. Pawn doesn't have to think he's super good. He's delusional anyway. He thinks he's better than Faker as it is, you know. You know?
Smeb pulled a Kevin Durant on, what is it? Rocks. Like he's like, holy shit, we can't beat the Cavaliers. I'm gonna go join the Golden State Warriors.
Okay. Doesn't
Like,
matter though.
It's
Mate, Kevin Durant would have fucking won the NBA this season. Cavaliers were shitting their pants until he got injured. So I don't know why you brought that analogy up. That's a great analogy. Thanks.
Like,
Yeah,
you're
you're exactly
saying he's, like,
right, Loco.
mentally strong. You're saying he's like mentally strong and he's like well prepared and like he's like he doesn't seem like when things got hard he didn't double down on rocks. Like he's like
That's bogus, because here's the thing. You know the real reason why there was all that tampering going on with Rox Tigers players? Because they had one of the best teams in the world and they couldn't fucking pay their players anything reasonable, and they had a shit organisation that was
you don't
doing
think they
all
could have
sorts
stayed
of stuff.
together at 5? If they wanted
They
to,
could have.
They could
Yeah,
have.
if you. Why would you stay together? You played for.
Left their family. One person's like,
I'd leave my family if they were all poor as fuck and I'd spent 2 years trying my hardest and they wouldn't help me succeed. I'd go, sorry family, I'm going to go live in a fucking condo with this hot ass bimbo that I've met now. I'll get a new family. I'll make my own family. That's what Smeb did. He's a man. He's a real... I told you this before, Loco. The thing about a top laner from Korea is Korean top laners are men. They are alpha males. They take care of the house. They take everyone else and they say, listen, you guys can't handle it. I play by myself in the lane. No one's here where I am. I know the jungler's always in the mid lane. I carry the fucking game. Everyone follow me. That's what Smeb's like. And he was like, you know what? Like, Mata, you haven't won in a while, mate.
Own argument. If he's really like that, then he's not going to be able to pass the ball to Deft. And then Deft is not going to be willing to pass the ball to Smeb. Like, at its core, KT has 2 players that are not willing to pass the ball.
I've got a scenario for you. Loco, okay? So remember, at the moment, we're having to judge these teams on the current meta. Right, imagine this meta, okay? Remember, okay, one of the big principles that we've seen over the last 3 years of League of Legends is, in general, teams have to have a tank. So the tank is always top laner or the jungler. Now imagine the meta flipped, and it was all carry top laners, and it was all tank junglers again for the playoffs. Could happen, right?
Could happen.
Now if that happens, bye-bye Peanut, Bye-bye, mate. And even worse, oh, Hooney, it's your chance to carry again, mate. Let the tilt begin.
Oh
Imagine that. Imagine that, Loco. What would you do then?
Like, you
Come on.
hold Hooney tilting against him so much, but he was on
I
Immortals
love it.
with
Yeah.
the players he couldn't trust and a coaching staff he couldn't trust. Like, this is so ridiculous. Like, you're judging him for his
Loco.
lowest low, and when he's in,
I
like, the
remember
best
when
situation-
Dylan Falco was this like really good analyst on TSL, helping this like shitter coach just like win NLCS, you know, really
we
carrying
won
him,
NLCS.
taking off,
We did win NLCS.
letting this big ego coach from Korea take all the credit when really it was like the staff behind him. It was like the offensive coordinator doing all the
Oh,
work. You know,
God.
you remember
I
that?
have
This guy was a great coach,
I have
coach
nothing
of the
against
season.
Dylan. I have nothing against Dylan, but Immortals
won
with
coach of
better
the
coaching
season in
staff could have
spring.
won spring or summer last year.
He won coach of the season in spring. What are you talking about? People like Kobe and Freak voted him the best coach in the league. I don't know if they actually did. I can't remember what their votes were, but they probably did. They probably did, right?
Oh, God.
And I agree, by the way.
God.
I'm joking there, obviously.
I love people
those
on
votes are
Immortals.
ridiculous.
I love Dodo. I love their management.
Okay.
But they did not have the best of coaching staff last year, and they did not
For
manage
sure.
the talent they had. The talent level they had was incredibly good for NA, and they should have achieved a lot more.
Okay, right. We've done a pretty long time. Do you have like a final key point you want to make? Have we touched on everything?
Throughout history, many people have bet against SKT.
Come on. Okay.
And many people have bet against SKT,
Yeah.
and they just keep getting better and better and better. They have the best organization, best coaching staff. They can cherry pick players if they feel like one of their players is worse, and this is the roster they came up with. Every iteration of SKT is better than the next, and they're on like page 50 of how to be the best team in the world. KT is on page 1.
Yeah. Okay, well then my final statement will be this. So there once was a year where old SK Telecom didn't win. They didn't win LCK, they didn't win Worlds, and that's because this guy called Mata was there, and that's because there was a guy called Deft there as well, and there was a guy called Pawn there as well, and they were very instrumental in making sure that old SKT didn't win and wasn't the best by the Worlds and didn't even make it to Worlds, in fact. And just to put a final touch on it, this guy called Smeb was so good, he took what a lot of people might even say was the best team ever, and he almost beat them to win Worlds, and he had Kuro on his team. Now, these two people, Mata, Smeb, you will see, Loco. These are guys are Hall of Famers. They're first ballot boy. People like Blank, they hope they get a fucking ticket to be at the ceremony when these guys get put in the Hall of Fame. They might get invited because Faker might hook them up with tickets. They're not going anywhere near a Hall of Fame, and no one knows yet if Hooney is, because dominating shitters in the West and then tilting in the playoffs doesn't get you in the Hall of Fame. So on that note, we've both made our points. The fans will be the deciders of who the champions are, and we will also, I hope as a perfect ending to this episode, that we just see these two teams play in the finals, and then we really kind of get to see what happens, and we will let the games decide who was indeed right. Loco, goodbye.
All right.
Hey, this is Travis Gafford, the double lift expert, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube channel.